Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Chris Sost, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Gig Economy Lounge. Today's episode is all about Lyft's earnings call that happened after hours yesterday and Uber's upcoming earnings call that will happen later on today. So I don't want to get into the details and the numbers specifically because I don't believe a lot of people care about that. But I do believe when you look at things as a whole, things are going to get better for everybody that's a part of the gig economy, and particularly rideshare, or if you're a courier with Uber Eats. I believe fundamentally things will get better into the future. Now, does that mean things will go back to the way they were? Absolutely not, but it'll be a new type of good. So just briefly, Lyft delivered better than expected earnings in quarter 2 of 2019. They had lower losses than were projected, and they believe that they reached their peak losses at the end of last year. Now, that statement, I don't know whether it's true or not. And obviously time will tell. However, the very fact that they made that statement signals that in terms of their business model moving forward, I don't believe they are going to have or going to even try to grow the business off of the North American continent. So as of today, Lyft is a U.S. company. You know, they operate all across the United States. They operate in a few markets in Canada. I think they have plans to possibly try to launch in Puerto Rico and try maybe some South American company or Central American countries, maybe Mexico. But as of right now, really don't have global aspirations. And that signals to me that I think that they're content with being number 2. And I'm gonna say why that's not a bad thing. And I'm just gonna regress real quick and kind of highlight what it means to be a global player when it comes to rideshare. So if you were to look all across the world, there are tons of rideshare companies out there. Tons. Every single region you go to, there's a dominant player. So in India, it's Ola. In the Middle East, it's Kareem, and they kind of battle with Get a little bit. When you go into Southeast Asia, you have Gojek, you have Grab. When you get into China, and I believe even Korea, you have Didi Quaching. I believe Didi Quaching is also in Japan. Don't hold me to that though. And I do know that they just launched in Mexico. Or they're testing Mexico. And you have Yandex, which is basically like the Google of Russia. Their conglomerate that they built with Uber is the dominant force in Russia. And then you have European-based companies all around. I don't know who's down in Australia, but I'm sure there's a regional player that's down there. So there's all these different companies, all of them. Uber and Didi Quaching are the only 2 companies to purely expand outside of their own region. Like purely expand. If you wanted to get acquisitions into the mix, then you can add Get to the list of companies who made it outside of their region. So, you might say why Get? Because Get acquired Juno in the United States. However, obviously, Juno's not fucking going anywhere outside of New York City anytime soon. So really, Get's footprint really isn't here in the US. But if you want to say they technically own something in the United States, they own a company in the market, then yes, there are 3 companies out of all the rideshare companies and courier companies that are all across the globe. There's only 2 or 3 companies that have truly made it outside of their home region, if you will. I would say continent, but once you get into like the whole like Europe, Russia, China, like that's all one continent. So I like to say region because there's Southeast Asia, right? So you have Gojek and Grab that are battling it out down there. And I think there's a couple other little ones, but those are the 2 biggest ones. So getting back to Lyft's earnings call, that was just kind of like a brief global view of rideshare in 2019 going into 2020. Lyft is signaling through their wording. Now, obviously, it can change the next earnings call. It can change a year from now. But they are signaling that they're pretty content with just being a North American company. Primarily because they started speaking about closing the gap and a break-even point sooner rather than later, or sooner than expected. So, unless I don't foresee them trying to grow outside of where they currently are. So they'll grow in the United States. They'll grow in Canada. Canada's a huge market for both Uber and Lyft, to be quite honest with you. Mexico is a growing emerging market. You have South America, emerging markets. Believe it or not, Africa, the Middle East. There's a ton of places on this earth where rideshare hasn't even blown up yet. And that's really where Uber is really going. And it's why I give Travis Kalanick a ton of credit for, what him and his who he surrounded with, or who he surrounded himself with, like that group of people. I don't truly think most people appreciate how fast he was able to grow a company and have a global reach while constantly facing legal actions. Honestly, when you look at just the storyline of Uber and Lyft, Lyft was the first company that came out with a pure rideshare company, but who was the better storyteller? Well, if you go to venture capitalists, which is where both companies had to go to in order to acquire money, Travis was the clear winner in selling the idea of rideshare. He outraised capital, for Uber that dwarfs and just gobbles up what Logan Green and John Zimmer were able to fundraise for Lyft. Now, that may be on purpose. I don't know. I do know this much. Travis Kalanick went out and sold an amazing story, and his company is still worth, as of this point, like $68 billion, compared to Lyft is at $17 billion. So I think there's a clear winner there in terms of who was the one that was able to get their company to where they needed to be. But I know as rideshare drivers, we get bogged down in the shit, and we lose sight of, what's going on in the world, because to the average person that's out there, they don't give two flying fucks what's happening to you. And honestly, it's because you don't give two flying fucks about what's happening to another person. So it's perfectly cool. But when you look at what Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp and all those people were able to do, it's really nothing short of amazing. Think about it. It's Uber, and then the closest global competitor is Diddy Quaching. Like, that was the only company really outside of Uber to purely grow their business outside of their home region. The rest of these companies are just trying to hold on. They're still fighting just for their home region, where, Uber just said, boom, dominate the United States. Cool. Let's keep going. And that's why they raised so much money, is because I fundamentally believe that Travis said, I need to become Google in terms of reach as fast as possible, and then we can work everything out afterwards. Because whoever gets to the furthest reach first wins. From there, we can always scale back. And you see this in their sales. So when they sold their Southeast Asia operations to the company Grab, they got, I think, 28% equity stake in the company, plus they got cash. When it came to their battle with Diddy Quaching, they sold their China operations to Diddy Quaching, took 18% equity in Diddy Quaching, and I think a little bit of cash. They outright purchased and acquired Kareem, which is a Middle East-based company. That acquisition hasn't fully gone through because obviously Kareem hasn't liquidated. However, it's a done deal. which ironically enough, if you look at active users and a lot of revenue models, Kareem is very similar in size to Lyft. There's a lot of similarities. The biggest difference is Lyft values its per active user 3 times more than Kareem does. So that's the discrepancy in terms of valuations. But I just wanted to go over this because I think it's important to keep a perspective on everything. And you go, well, Chris, I've listened this long. Why is this good for rideshare drivers? Because when both Uber and Lyft went public, they both signaled through language that they wanted to stop competing on price. This is big for drivers. Honestly, it's a lot bigger than most drivers think because drivers want change now, but change isn't coming for the next 12 to 24 months, maybe 36 months. It's just not going to happen yet. But when they start marketing on brand and on value and on other metrics other than price, you're going to see everything start to rise. You're going to start to see prices. venture capitalists have been fucking subsidizing rides for fucking years. Everybody goes, drivers are subsidizing the rides. No. Venture capitalists have subsidized the rides. They fucking paid for all of the ride credits. They paid for all of the driver incentives. They paid for all of that shit. They financed it. They're subsidizing the rides. So what they're going to start to do is they're going to start to wean people off that subsidy. Prices are already starting to rise a little bit. Well, guess what? Once they start competing on all these other things, they're going to obviously you have Uber Pro, and I know people have, opinions about Uber Pro, but obviously it's still a new program, so you don't know what it's going to look like 24 months from now. Lyft has its own Lyft reward program. I think they're coming out with a new one. They're getting rid of accelerated rewards and they're coming out with a new one. This is how they're going to compete with each other. Is they're going to offer incentives for people who utilize rideshare more as a contractor than others. So me being, a 15 to 20 hour a week driver, I don't get the benefits, but guess what? Well, I mean, I get some of the benefits, I guess, but I'm not worried about them. Like it's not like I'm desperately in need of the cash. Like it's just really nice to pad my other income with Uber and Lyft. So they're really going to focus on how do we capture the attention of the contractor. And this is why it would be really good for drivers to remain independent contractors, because your attention is going to become more valuable. They do it every single day through little mechanisms, whether it's quests, streaks, all these other little things. These are all tests, by the way. I don't think that they've figured out which one's going to work the best yet. So if you go, oh, well, now my streaks suck or they went away, or all my quests suck, they went away, and all the bonuses, they all suck and they all went away. It's because they continually test new shit. Just get over it. It's going to happen. They're in a new phase, which is obviously it's new, which means they're going to continually test. But I think when you look at it from a macro standpoint, over the next 36 months, drivers will start to earn more money. Now, how they earn more money, that's a different story. I truly fundamentally believe that if you can squeeze shit out of the lemon and take advantage of a free college education, I would say go for it. Because there's 2 reasons why. Number one, there's a potential for a huge ROI on the back end of that. So everybody's like, oh, just give me more money. And I'm sorry for sounding like that, but I really need to differentiate the sounds. Oh, just give me more money. I want more money. Just pay me more money. You're just fucking chasing the high. It's like a fucking crack addict, looking for their next rock just to fucking get high again. There's 0 ROI, right? Whereas if you take driver payments, pay your bills, and then you take this added benefit of going to college and getting a degree in something fucking meaningful that's geared towards the future, what the future economy looks like, in a new field, I say fucking take advantage of it. Like McDonald's is fucking paying for people to go to college. UPS is paying for people to go to college. Starbucks is paying for people to go to college. There's tons of companies that are investing a huge sum of money into sending people to college to be better equipped for the future. So yes, would it be nice to make an additional 40 cents, 50 cents per mile? Sure. But in 36 months to, 6 years when automated vehicles come around, what the fuck are you going to do then? Now you're fucked. Now you don't have a college degree and you don't have money coming in. Like, when you could have just taken less, gotten a college degree in something that's applicable, and then 36 months from now, you're not fucking driving for Uber because you have a job paying you $50, $60, $70, $80, $90,000 a year. That's the way I look at opportunities. And this is where I fundamentally just think drastically different than most people. I try to see the absolute best in every situation. You know what? Rates suck right now. What the fuck are you going to do about it? Are you going to fucking bitch and complain about it? Or are you going to fucking take advantage of the other things that these people are offering to help better yourself 36 months from now, 48 months from now? Like, fuck, man. Get an engineering degree. What's the ROI on an engineering degree that you only paid 1/5 of the price or 1/6 of the price for? Like, sacrifice now, eat shit, fucking go to school, and there's a lot of people, I don't want to go to school. Well, fuck, dude. Like, then you honestly need to look for something different. And I know this episode has gone like in a completely different direction. So when it comes to naming this fucking podcast, I don't know what I can name it, because we went from Lyft earnings to like the future of rideshare, which is going to be better for drivers, but it's going to be better in a different way. So later on today, Uber is going to release their earnings. Obviously, they're going to lose more money than Lyft. They're a fucking global company, but they're going to have huge gains in, I'm sure Uber Eats is going to have huge gains. I think they grew like 108% like year over year, from first quarter 2019 to, or first quarter 2018 to first quarter 2019. They're competing there. Obviously, Uber in talks with acquiring Postmates. That's huge. Amazon is in talks with Uber to buy Uber Eats India. That's huge. I mean, there's a lot to look forward to. And I'm just going to end this podcast with saying you have to do what's best for you with what you got in front of you. Like, yes, it would be nice, for whatever people are trying to fight for, right? But the question is how long is it going to last? Are we going to be, and I don't really mean to bring up crackheads, but it gets across the point. Like, are we going to be fucking crackheads just constantly chasing the next rock? And then what happens when the fucking dealer stops dealing? Like, what are you going to do? Like, now you're fucking itching and you ain't got a fucking rock to smoke. It's a terrible place to be, and I've been there. And it's why through a lot of the podcast episodes, I try to bring information that people can act upon for themselves. And I just want to hear of somebody going, you know what? Fucking 24 months ago, I was struggling and I was living day to day with Uber payments. And as of today, thanks to just fucking eating shit and keeping my head down and fucking taking advantage of all opportunities that were presented to me, including free college, or at least heavily discounted college. I was able to get a job doing XYZ, and now my median income or my household income is fucking $75,000 a year. And now me and my wife, we can fucking save for our kids to go to college. We can take a vacation, this and that. Like, that's what I am looking forward to. Like, the day that happens. Because I truly believe that somebody will listen to this episode and will listen to other episodes, and they will take an action that changes their life forever. That they never thought was going to change. Everybody just wants shit to fucking go back to the past. Guess what? Fucking shit never goes back to the goddamn past. Sorry for using GD, but it just doesn't fucking happen. It's not like we fucking came out with cars and then all of a sudden we were like, oh, fuck it. We're just going to go back to riding horses and fucking, draw carriages. Like, get the fuck out of here. And, it's not like once we got like the automobile, it's not like, oh shit, this thing goes fucking 20 miles an hour. We're not going to go any faster. Sorry, we're going to, you know what? The car sped up to 50 top speed, and now we're going to go back to 25 because it felt more, it felt more comfortable. It felt safer. Like, shit doesn't fucking happen like that. So things are going to drastically change over the next 36 months. What are you going to do about it? Hopefully you listen to the next episode. So thank you guys so much and have a wonderful day.